The Opel Rekord was a large family car executive car which was built in 8 generations by the German car manufacturer Opel. Between 1953 and 1986, approximately 10 million were sold. In 1986, the Rekord was replaced by the Opel Omega. Naming: the Rekord name evolved into the main name of the model. At first the name was used in close relationship with the Opel Olympia name, which predated the Rekord but was also reinstated in a separate model in 1967. The various generations are described here with the manufacturers, or other commonly used designations such as Rekord PI, or Rekord B. The car was not badged with these additional appellations. Olympia Rekord. The Opel Olympia Rekord was introduced in March 1953 as successor to the Opel Olympia, a pre-World War II design dating back to 1935. The Opel Olympia Rekord was built until 1957 in 4 different versions. Around 580,000 units were produced. Styling of the 1953-54 sedans resembled scaled-down versions of the contemporary Chevrolet in the U.S. Both cars were of course, products of General Motors. 1953-54, 1488 cc's, 40 picoseconds. Available as 2-door saloon, cabriolet and estate. Price in Germany, DM 6,410 to 6,710. 136,028 units made. 1955, 1488 cc's, 40 picoseconds. Mild facelift, comprising larger rear window, new grille insert. New base model called simply Olympia. A delivery, based on the saloon, was also introduced. Price in Germany, DM 5,850 to 6,710. 131,586 units made. 1956, 1488 cc's, 45 picoseconds. New grille insert, bumpers now without guards. Price in Germany, DM 5,410 to 6,560. 144,587 units made. 1957, 1488 cc's, 45 picoseconds. New grille insert again, flatter roof, chrome strips along belt line. The cabriolet was no longer part of the line. Prices in Germany, DM 5,510 to 6,560. 169,721 units made. General data, wheelbase 97.9 inches, length 166.9 inches, width 64 inches, height 61 in, curb weight 2,020 pounds-2,200 pounds, top speed approximately 75 miles per hour. Rekord PI. The Opel Rekord P1 had a slightly larger, more modern body with wraparound windscreen and rear screen, introducing to Germany the latest American fashion of two-tone paintwork. The standard model was sold as the Opel Olympia Rekord, while a reduced specification version was marketed simply as the Opel Olympia and widely known, less formally, as the Bauern Buick. A new base version with an 1196cc engine appeared in 1959, badged more simply as the Opel 1200, and replacing the Opel Olympia. A semi-automatic gearbox became available for model year 1959. Initially the car retained the 1488 cc's, 45 picoseconds of its predecessor. This was complemented by a 1680 cc's, 55 picoseconds. L engine for model year 1960. The PI remained in production until 1960. 1958 a Euro 59, 1488 cc's, 45 picoseconds. Available as 2-door Olympia base model or more luxurious 2-door Olympia Rekord, and as 3-door estate and delivery van based on the saloon. Price in Germany, DM 5,785 to 6,845. 509,110 units were made. 1959, 1488 cc's, 45 picoseconds. On request 1680 cc's, 55 picoseconds. Also available as 4-door saloon. Several refinements including padded dashboard, ignition lock, electrically driven windscreen wipers. The new base model Opel 1200 replaced the former Olympia, DM 5835. The 1200 remained in production until December 1962, while the PI was superseded in August 1960 by the Rekord P2. Price in Germany, DM 6545 to 7110. 307,000 units plus 67.952 units. In 1959 a Euro 60, Autumnreath of Darmstadt, Germany converted PI two-door sedans to Cooper Copyright S and cabriolets, in very limited numbers. Prices were DM 9,380 for the Cooper Copyright and DM 11,180 for the convertible. General data: wheelbase 100 inches, length 174.9 inches, width 63.6 inches, height 58.7 in, curb weight 2,010 pounds-2,210 pounds, top speed 74 mph Euro 82 miles per hour. Rekord P2. The Rekord P2 grew in size, if not in wheelbase, and received a totally new body that did away with wraparound windows. It was available in several body versions: two-door and four-door saloon, a three-door estate plus delivery van, a pickup, and a convertible. From August 1961 on, a Works Cooper Copyright became available, and in June 1962 a more luxurious L version was added with a new top engine of 1700 cc's, and a higher compression ratio. The latest versions had an optional 4-speed gearbox. Prices in Germany: DM 6545 to 7770. 787,684 units made. Autumnreath continued to sell a handful of convertibles at DM 11,635. General data: engines 1488 cc's, 50 picoseconds, or 1680 cc's, 55 picoseconds or 1680 cc's, 60 picoseconds. Wheelbase 100 inches, length 177.8 inches, width 64.3 inches, height 58.6 in, curb weight 2,075 pounds-2,240 pounds, top speed 77 miles per hour-87 miles per hour. Rekord A. The Rekord A lineup was a repeat of the Rekord P2, but the bodies were completely new and the wheelbase stretched to 103.3 inches. March 1964 saw the introduction of the Rekord L6 with the Opel Capita Currency N's 2.6-litre inline 6. Prices in Germany: DM 6.830 to 9.370. Front disc brakes, plus DM 200, 4-speed with floor shift, plus DM 180. 885,292 units. In very limited numbers, Karl Deutsch of Cologne sold a convertible version with either 1700S or 2600 engine at DM 11,765 and 13,060 respectively. General data: engines 1488 cc's, 55 picoseconds, or 1680 cc's, 60 or 67 picoseconds, or 2605 cc's, 100 picoseconds, wheelbase 103.9 inches, length 178 inches, width 66.8 inches, height 57.7 in, curb weight 2,140 pounds-2,510 pounds, top speed 81 miles per hour-104 miles per hour. Rekord B. While the Rekord B consisted of only a mild facelift compared to the A, it received Opel's new, moreover square 4-cylinder CIH engines. The CIH engines were used in all subsequent Rekord generations until 1986, when Rekord was replaced by the Opel Omega. The 2,600cc 6-cylinder engine remained unchanged. The lineup was identical to the Rekord A. Prices in Germany: DM 6,980 to 9,570. Power brakes, plus DM 95, automatic gearbox, plus 950. 4-speed gearbox, plus 95. 296,771 units. General data: engines 1,492 cc's, 60 picoseconds, or 1,698 cc's, 75 picoseconds. or 1,897 cc's, 90 picoseconds, or 2,605 cc's, 100 picoseconds, wheelbase 103.9 inches, length 178.3 inches, width 66.6 inches, height 56.7 in, curb weight from 2,190 pounds, top speed 83 miles per hour - 104 miles per hour. Record C. With 1,276,681 units built, the Record C was the most successful record so far. The car proved to be a solid hit with the public. It was reliable, roomy and pleasant to look at with its Coke bottle line. The range consisted of the 2- and 4-door saloon, 2- and 4-door estate, delivery van, and 2-door hardtop coupe. Copyright with 1500, 1700, 1700S, 1900S4s or a 2206. Very short-lived was a special taxi version on a longer wheelbase with division, that sold for DM 9,950. With it, Opel tried to get a foothold in the German taxi market, then dominated by Mercedes-Benz. Again, Karl Deutsch of Cologne offered a convertible version in limited numbers. There existed several variations of the Record C, as well as version made under different names in different countries. A variation on the Record C was the Record Sprint Coupe. Copyright with driving lights, sport steel wheels, sport stripes and a sporty interior. The Sprint received exclusively the so-called 1900H engine with 2 double-barrel carburetors, good for 106 picoseconds and 108 miles per hour. The former Record L6 was replaced by the new Commodore, a slightly disguised and better-equipped Record C available as 2- and 4-door sedan and hardtop coupe. Copyright with 6-cylinder engines only. It was during the life of this model that the Opel Olympia name was revived, but in a separate, smaller car which was based on the period Opel Kadett. Due to the launch of the smaller Ascona in September 1970, the Record was marketed as an executive car rather than a large family car. Ranger. The Ranger was a Record-based range built at the Opel Continental plant in Antwerp, Belgium, for the overall European market. Styling was similar to the Record, although the Ranger had a 4-headlamp grille setup, similar to the Vauxhall Victor FD range of the time. Initially, there were 2 models, Ranger 130 and Ranger 153. In 1970 additional models were announced, being the Ranger 1900 and Ranger 2500, and a SS variant, based on the Ranger 153. There was also a South African Ranger, built in General Motors South Africa's plant Port Elizabeth. Known as South Africa's own car, it featured a Springbok logo on its grille, and was also produced as a station wagon. Other markets. The Record C was built Chevrolet Opel and Commodore in Brazil from 1968 on, available in saloon, coupe. Copyright and estate forms and featuring either Chevrolet's 2.5L4, 3.8L inline 6 or 4.1L inline 6. These models received several facelifts and remained in production until about 1992. A Record C Coupe. Copyright was locally built in South Africa as a Ranger SS during the 1970s. Prices in Germany, DM 7,630 to 9,560. Sprint, DM 9,775. The Record C was marketed in Mexico as Opel Rekord Olímpico. Due to the 1968 Olympic Games, Corsa, Astra and others were sold under Chevrolet during the 1990s and first decade of the 21st century. General data, engines 1492 cc's, 58, later 60 picoseconds, 1698 cc's, 60, later 66 picoseconds, 1698 cc's, 75 picoseconds, 1897 cc's, 90 picoseconds, 1897 cc's, 106 picoseconds, 2239 cc's, 95 picoseconds, wheelbase 105 inches, length 180 inches, width 69.1 inches, height 57.5 in, curb weight 2,265 pounds - 2,585 pounds, top speed 81 miles per hour - 108 miles per hour. Record D. about 1.1 million Rekord DS were made. Because the name Rekord D was easily mistaken to connote a diesel-powered car, the name Rekord 2 was often used in sales literature. The first prototype was ready in 1971. The engine types available were 1897 cc's, 1698 cc's and 2068 cc's CIH 4-cylinder gasoline engines. There was also a diesel version with an engine whose displacement was initially 2.1 litres and afterwards reduced to 2.0 litres. The diesel engine was higher than gasoline variants, so diesel model hoods have a raised midsection. The 6-cylinder variant of this car is called the Commodore B. Transmissions available were standard 4-speed manual with either floor or steering column shifter and TH180 automatic transmission. The body is of unitary construction. Body types available were 4-door saloon, 4-door estate and 2-door coupe copyright. There was also a variant called Berliner with more luxurious interior and wheels. The ranges were also transferred to this new generation, with the dropping of the 130 and 153 and the adding of a 1.7L engine. In 1972, the lineup consisted of the base Ranger 1700, the mid-level Ranger 1900, and the top-of-the-line Ranger 2500. In 1974, a 2.8L engine was introduced to the Ranger family. However, by that time the Rangers were unpopular, and were discontinued after the 1976 model year. Most of these were sold exclusively in continental Europe, especially the Benelux region. South Africa used this body type for their Chevrolet 2500, 3800 and 4100 series. They looked visually almost identical but had the Chevrolet 2500 or 3800 and 4100 engines installed. They were available as 4-door saloon or estate. The 6-cylinder versions could be differentiated from the 4s as they had 4 round headlights as opposed to the 2 rectangular units. These cars were also assembled in Iran from 1974 till 1977 under the local Chevrolet Royale/or Chevrolet Iran brand name by Iran General Motors. The two models were 2500 and 2800 with 2.5L and 2.8L, respectively. The production of these vehicles ended in 1977 when the assembly line started producing the Chevrolet Nova, Buick Skylark, and Cadillac Seville cars until 1987. Rekord E. The E model can be subdivided into Rekord E1 and Rekord E2. Over 1.4 million units were made. The Rekord E was available as a 2- or 4-door sedan, and as a 3- or 5-door caravan. In some markets where the tax structure was suitable, a 3-door van version was also available. A version of the Rekord E was sold by Vauxhall in the United Kingdom from 1979 as the Carlton, with a droop snoot. The differences in appearance vanished following the 1982 facelift. The E1 model was also sold in South Africa, initially as the Chevrolet Rekord, before being rebranded as an Opel in 1982, remaining in production until 1984. The E2 model remained in production in South Africa until the early 1990s, and was also available with a V6 engine. References. External links, http www.opelp1nl/Opel P1 websites, Opel Rekord. Opel Rekord body history. GM Trivia, Gminside News Forums. Classic Opel Parts Database.